I stood outside the conference room, watching through the glass. My quarterly review, the one I'd been running for 38 years. Victor sat at the head of the table, my seat. The management team huddled around him like he'd always been there. "Raymond, hey, you don't need to sit in on this one," he'd said when I walked up. Smiled, casual. "We'll loop you in after. You've done enough. Let us handle the heavy stuff." Loop me in, on my own quarterly review. I looked around the table. No one met my eyes. Jenny from accounting suddenly found something interesting in her notebook. I turned around, walked back to my office, the small one they'd moved me to, 2 weeks after the retirement ceremony. Corner space, away from the action. I didn't feel angry. I felt invisible. But it hadn't started there. It started 6 months earlier. Sunday dinner at Eleanor's place, the house Margaret and I helped them buy. "Dad, you're almost 70, Eleanor said. Gentle voice, concerned, eyes. "You should be enjoying retirement, playing golf, doing all the things you and Mom talked about. I like working, but you're tired. I see it, the early mornings. It's too much." I wasn't tired, but the way she said it made me wonder if maybe I looked tired, if everyone else saw something I didn't. I didn't answer right away. "Victor could help more," she said, glancing at him. "He knows the clients. He's ready." Victor smiled, didn't say anything. Just let Eleanor talk. "Victor's doing fine. He could do more. It'll be easier for you. You've earned the rest." She said it like she was protecting me, but it sounded like she was replacing me. Eleanor looked at me like she expected gratitude. Victor stayed quiet. She hesitated. Her eyes flicked to Victor, then back to her plate. That silence bothered me more than the words. I thought they were worried about me. I wanted to believe that. I didn't realize yet that worry can sound a lot like replacement. That's when it started. I built Morrison security systems from nothing. 38 years ago, I started installing alarm systems out of a van. Margaret kept the books, answered phones, made schedules. We grew. 42 employees now. Contracts across 3 states. I was 68. Still sharp, still closing deals. Margaret died 3 years ago. Heart attack, sudden. One day she was there. Next day she was gone. After the funeral, Eleanor leaned on Victor. He became her rock. I was grateful. A daughter needs support. 2 years ago, Victor came to work at the company. Account manager. He was good. Clients liked him. He closed deals. But there was something in the way he talked about the business. Like he was measuring it, figuring out what it was worth. He wasn't just my son-in-law anymore. He was acting like my successor. And people were starting to notice. Starting to treat me like I'd already signed the papers. After that dinner, Victor started staying late, taking calls I used to handle, showing up to meetings I hadn't invited him to. "Just trying to help," he'd say. Then one morning, he said something that stuck. "Raymond, let me handle the Patterson account. You don't need to worry about that anymore." He didn't ask. He informed. I didn't argue. I just nodded, like I'd done 1,000 times before, when the answer should have been no. Later, I wondered if I should have. Then came the email, a calendar invite titled Succession Planning Meeting, sent by Victor. My attorney Gordon was copied. I wasn't marked as required. My name was the only thing missing from my own future. Victor came to my office that afternoon. Late, the fluorescent lights buzzed, stale coffee smell. He closed the door, sat down without asking, leaned back like he owned the chair, like the room had already decided who mattered. "Raymond, this is standard at your age. Everyone does succession planning. I just don't want you getting overwhelmed. You don't want to leave Eleanor with a mess." That wasn't concern. That was control. I listened, didn't interrupt, but I felt it, that creeping feeling I was being managed. I didn't feel angry yet. I felt small, like the company I'd built for 38 years was being taken from me, one polite conversation at a time. And that scared me more than I wanted to admit. Then he said it. "We should get the papers signed before you change your mind." I didn't know it then, but that moment changed everything. My stomach tightened before he even spoke. "Raymond, we need to talk about succession planning." My company attorney, Gordon, sat across from me. He'd been my lawyer for 20 years, never talked about succession before. "Who asked you to bring this up?" "Victor called me. Said you wanted to discuss transition options." "I never said that." Gordon looked uncomfortable. He said Eleanor mentioned you were thinking about stepping back. "Eleanor's not running this company. I am." "I understand. But Raymond, it's not a bad idea to have a plan. What happens if something happens to you? Then Eleanor inherits, like the will says. But the company operations, day to day, Victor thinks a lot of things." I went home that night and called my brother Grant. He ran a construction company in Nevada. Retired last year after his partner tried to push him out. They're making a move, Grant said. Classic playbook. Pressure you to retire, take over operations, then you're out before you know what happened. Victor wouldn't do that. Victor's married to your daughter, and your daughter wants you to retire. Do the math. I did the math. I didn't like what it added up to. What do? Test them. See how far they'll go. I called a family dinner. Just the three of us. Eleanor, Victor, and me. I've been thinking about what you said, I told Eleanor. The words felt heavy, like I was testing how they sounded out loud. About retirement. Her face lit up. Victor set down his fork. Really? She said. Dad, that's wonderful. I'm not getting younger. Margaret always said I'd work myself to death. Maybe she was right. Maybe it's time to step back. Victor leaned forward. That's great, Raymond. Really great. You've earned it. 38 years. You've built something incredible. You should enjoy the fruits of that labor. The words sounded rehearsed, like he'd practiced this conversation. I want to do it right. Transition smoothly. Make sure Morrison stays strong. Victor, you'd take over operations? I'd be honored. He reached for Eleanor's hand. We both would, keeping it in the family. So it'd be Victor running things. With Eleanor's input, Victor said quickly. She knows the business too. Eleanor smiled, put her hand on Victor's. They'd already discussed this. I'll need to talk to Gordon, get the paperwork right. Of course, Victor said. Take your time, do it right. But his eyes said something else. His eyes said, hurry up. I called Gordon the next day. I need you to draft transition documents. Make them look real. But don't file anything. Nothing legally binding. Raymond, what are you doing? Testing my son-in-law. This could backfire. Then I'll know what I'm dealing with. Whoa, weeks later, we had the ceremony. Small thing. Office conference room, sheet cake from Costco, the whole team there. 42 faces looking at me like I was already a memory. I made a speech, short. Thanked everyone for 38 years. Talked about Margaret. Said Victor would take over operations. People clapped. Some cried. Jenny from accounting gave me a hug, whispered, thank you for everything, like it was goodbye. Someone said, enjoy retirement, sir, like I was already gone. Victor made a speech, longer than mine. Thanked me. Said he'd honor my legacy, grow the company. Those were his exact words. Grow the company. Like what I'd built wasn't enough. Everyone clapped. Victor cut the cake. People came up, shook my hand, told me I deserved rest. After the cake, after the handshakes, Victor asked to see me in my office. My office. Mine, at least on paper. We should talk about the transition timeline, he said. What do you mean? I just announced it. Right, but officially. The paperwork, transferring authority. Gordon's handling it. I know, but I think we should move quickly. Get everything signed before you change your mind. He laughed, like it was a, joke. I'm not changing my mind. Great. So maybe we sign tomorrow? Get it done? Tomorrow. He wanted it done tomorrow. I'll call Gordon. I didn't. I called Grant instead. He's moving fast, Grant said. Get evidence. I spent that night going through files. Found it in accounts receivable. Victor had set up a subsidiary, Morrison Systems LLC, different from the main corporation, redirecting client payments. He was building an exit strategy. Once I signed, he'd migrate the clients, leave me with nothing. Gordon's office. 3 days after the ceremony, Victor and Eleanor showed up dressed like they were going to a funeral. Dark suits, serious faces. Eleanor wore the pearls Margaret gave her. That detail hit me harder than I expected. Gordon had the documents ready. Stack of papers, transition of authority, Victor as president, me as chairman emeritus, fancy title, no power. Raymond, before we sign, I want to make sure you've read everything, Gordon said. Every page, every clause. This is your life's work. I trust you, Gordon. You've never steered me wrong. Still, this is your company. You should know exactly what you're signing. I flipped through slowly, making a show of reading. Saw the trap in legal language, advisory role only. No operational authority. President has sole control. Company may be sold at his discretion. Victor would control everything. I'd be a ghost. Looks good, I said. Victor relaxed, smiled. Let's sign. I signed my name, Raymond, on the wrong papers. I signed ink on a decoy set, but I never signed the originals. Gordon had printed them on the same letterhead, same page numbers, same seals, everything Victor expected to see. The real papers stayed blank in Gordon's safe. Victor signed. Eleanor witnessed. Congratulations, Gordon said, to both of you. Victor shook my hand. I won't let you down, Raymond. I know you won't, because I hadn't signed the real documents. I'd signed Gordon's test versions. identical, except they had no legal weight, no notarization, no filing, nothing that could hold up in court. Gordon kept them in a separate folder. The real documents sat in Gordon's safe, unsigned, on day morning, first day of Victor's presidency. I showed up at 7 a.m. like always. My parking spot still said R. Founder. Victor was already there. Raymond, you're here early. Same time I always come in. Right, but you're retired now. Maybe just check with me before you come in so I can plan my day accordingly. This is my company, our company. But I'm running operations now. The team needs clear leadership. I went to my office. My door had a new lock. Security upgrade, Victor said. I'll get you a key. He didn't. Instead, he moved me to a smaller office, corner space, away from the main floor. Better for you, he said, quieter. He moved his stuff into my old office, the one with the view, the one where I'd built everything. Tuesday morning, I got to the office. The team was huddled around Victor's door. Morning meeting, the one I used to run. Nobody had told me it was happening. I stood there for a second, watching through the glass. Victor at the head of the table, my table, making a joke, everyone laughing. Through the glass, I heard him call it my company, and nobody corrected him. I turned around, went back to my corner office. Wednesday, I tried to call a client, big account, 20-year relationship. Mr. R, hi, the client said. I thought, you retired? Semi-retired. I'm still involved. Victor told us you weren't handling accounts anymore. Said we should go through him for everything. Victor's not the only contact. He is, according to our new contract, the one he sent over yesterday. New contract. Victor had repapered my clients while I watched. Thursday, Jenny from accounting came to see me. Mr. R, I need your signature on these expense reports. I don't sign expense reports anymore. Victor said all financial sign-offs go through him now, but these are old ones, from before the transition. I looked at the reports. My signature line was crossed out, Victor's name typed over it. When did this happen? Yesterday. Victor sent a company-wide memo. Didn't you get it? I hadn't gotten it, because Victor had removed me from the distribution lists. Friday morning, Victor called a management meeting. Didn't invite me. I showed up anyway. Raymond. Victor stood at the head of the conference table. My seat. This is a management meeting. I'm management. You're emeritus, advisory. I'll catch you up later. The room went quiet, everyone looking at their papers. I built this company, and now I'm running it. That's what you wanted. Remember? I left, went to my corner office, called Grant. He's pushing you out, Grant said. Classic. Next step, he'll make you uncomfortable enough that you stop coming in. Then what? Then he sells the company, or runs it into the ground. Either way, you lose. What do? You fight back, but not with confrontation, with proof. Get evidence, then burn him. I spent the weekend going through everything. 38 years of files. Bank statements going back to when we opened our first business account. Client files Margaret had organized in her perfect handwriting. Email archives from the last decade. Seeing her handwriting made it feel personal again. Found the shell company first, Morrison Systems LLC, incorporated 3 months ago. Victor as president, Eleanor as secretary. Business address, a UPS store in the next county. Different EIN, different bank, same clients. They'd been planning this before I even announced retirement, before the family dinner, before the pressure campaign. Found the client migrations next. 40% of our accounts redirected to the LLC, not all at once, slowly. 1 or 2 a month. Small accounts first, testing, then bigger one. Payments going to a different bank account, one I'd never seen. Found the emails last, 3 months of correspondence. Victor to Eleanor. Once he signs, the board vote is automatic. Victor to Eleanor. Move the top clients to the LLC first, quietly. Victor to Eleanor. 6 months, we dissolve the original. He'll blame retirement. They were going to erase the company. Blame it on me. Make it look like my decision. They were going to turn my retirement into a cover story. I printed everything, took it to Gordon. This is fraud, Gordon said. Corporate theft. You could press charges. I want something better. What? I want to watch them explain this to everyone. Public. In front of the team. Monday morning. I called an all-staff meeting. Victor tried to stop me. Raymond, you can't just call meetings. We discussed chain of command. This is important. Then run it by me first. No. The whole team gathered, 42 people, conference room packed. Victor stood next to me, trying to control the room. Morning, everyone, I said. I have an announcement. Victor tensed. 2 weeks ago, I signed papers making Victor president. of the company, transitioning out of day-to-day operations, moving into retirement. People nodded. They knew this. They'd been at the ceremony, ate the Costco cake. Except I didn't actually sign anything. The documents Victor has, they're drafts, test versions, not legally binding. Gordon prepared 2 sets, one real, one fake. I signed the fake ones. Silence. Complete silence. 42 people frozen. The real documents are still in Gordon's safe, unsigned, which means nothing changed. Victor isn't president. I am. I never stopped being president. Victor's face went from confused to red to white. What the hell are you doing? I'm unretiring and firing you. You can't fire me. I'm president. We signed. No, you're not. You never were. I'm still president, still owner, and you're done. Security will escort you out. Eleanor stood up from the back of the room. Dad, what is this? You too, Eleanor. You knew. The emails prove it. You were part of this from the beginning. I pulled out the printouts, stack of papers, handed them to Jenny. Pass these around. Everyone should see what Victor and Eleanor were planning, what they were going to do to our business. The room read. Faces changed. Anger, shock, disgust. You were stealing clients, Jenny said, setting up a fake company. It's not fake, Victor said. It's a legitimate subsidiary that you didn't tell me about, that you were using to drain the company. This is insane. Raymond, you're paranoid. I gave you rope. You used it. Security escorted Victor out. Eleanor left on her own. The team stayed. The company stays mine, I said. I'm not going anywhere. They clapped. Some people cried. Again, but different tears this time. Eleanor called 2 days later. Dad, we need to talk. We do. Victor meant exactly what he did, and you helped him. I thought you wanted to retire. I said I'd think about it. I didn't say give you my company. It's not like that. The emails say different. Silence. I'm sorry. Are you sorry you did it? We're sorry you got caught. She didn't answer. Your mom built this company with me, I said. 38 years. She kept the books, made the schedules, answered the phones when we couldn't afford a receptionist. She died 3 years ago, and you were going to let Victor sell the company she built. For what? Quick cash? I didn't think. That's the problem. You didn't think about her, about me, about what this company means. What happens now? You're still my daughter, but you don't work here, and Victor never comes near the business again. I hung up. 3 months later, the business is doing better than ever. The clients came back. The LLC dissolved. Accounts transferred back. I promoted Jenny to CFO. I'm 68, still running my company, still showing up, still closing deals. Retirement isn't about age. It's about trust. If people push you to step back before you're ready, watch closely. If papers get pushed across a desk with "sign here" and "trust me," read every line. The people who love you will let you choose your timeline. The people who want your business will create one for you. I chose to keep building, keep Margaret's legacy protected. And when I do retire, if I retire, it'll be on my terms. The business you built isn't just assets. It's your blood, your sweat, your wife's handwriting in the client files, your name on the door. If someone wants to take that before you're ready, test them first. I tested him. He failed, and I kept what I built.